Alrighty, time for a weekly outlook. We'll keep it short and concise. We have a really nice setup into at least Monday. That's for sure. I am well, personally, I'm thinking we put in a short-term bottom, at least already, or pretty darn close to where we currently are. This might look confusing, but for some reason the data on this day didn't load completely. I don't know how to really load that in, but this did go a little lower into the 30s. But right, inside day going into the week, in terms of where we're at on the larger time frame. So, right, on the year we have what, a double distribution, arguably, or at least developing into a double distribution, right? This is the same for both ES and NQ. Right, so if we just take a profile, it's arguably a one distribution down here and developing one up here, right? So the idea is, okay, where are we, gonna spend at least the foreseeable future trading, right? Is it gonna be up in here, or is it gonna be acceptance back below and down in this range, right? Which is gonna become a huge problem for buyers if we start doing that, right, below this. Right, and that's sort of like the big line in the sand for, we're 7 months into the year. This is the big line in the sand, I think, for the rest of the year. So buyers really aren't in any kind of trouble, I would say, longer term, until we start giving this up, right? And I would want to see acceptance below, right? Whether we spend a couple days or maybe even a week under this, and if it is able to prop back up, right, we'll count that as a look below and fail, or a failure to breach back over this would sort of reinforce that idea that buyers are failing. But we came pretty darn close to it. For now, they defended the gap, right? We filled the roll gap, CPI gap still below us. So that's where we're at on a larger time frame. More shorter time frame, right? We have at least a double distribution from last week. And we're one time framing down on the weekly now. So buyers really, and on the daily. So buyers are gonna just have to start taking it day by day and get over that last little previous day's high, right? Or just get over a prior session's high. It looks like we're about to do it now, or at least Monday. So we're gapped up and went. So pretty close to that high now, but that's the idea, at least for this week, right? We'll have a double distribution from last week. Question is, do we spend more time in the lower one, or are buyers able to get above it and maybe backfill some of this? It doesn't have to go all the way back up, but we have to take it step by step, level by level, right? That's sort of the situation we're in. Macro wise, in a interesting situation as well, just in terms of rate cuts. Most recent CPI PPI numbers we saw were not good at all. For profit margins, awful, right, in terms of where the consumer is. So we'll have to keep watching those going forward. But we never really want to play macro and try to play it intraday. It doesn't work. I mean, I tried shorting the PPI print and it didn't work. Granted, it just didn't work. It ended up working a couple sessions later, right? Just sort of marked off the high, but it's just never a good idea to play it intraday. But anyway, at least for Monday, we had a really, really nice setup, right? We wanted an inside day put in on Friday, and we got what right? Although we failed once again at that 55.30 mark, came pretty darn close. That's going to be that big level, right? It's inside day highs at 28. Point of control, at least of the composite up here, sitting at 30. So that's what we failed Thursday, and we got close Friday and failed, right? So pretty similar reaction, not in terms of magnitude, but just the sort of reaction we saw. So inside day breaks, you want to just ride the way it breaks, ride the direction in which it breaks until it fails. If it fails, right, we want to be on the other side of that trade and fade it. When I say fade it, just wait for it to get over, fail, and then see some volume pick up, right? So that being said, that's probably, I hope it shapes the rest of the week, only because not only is it an inside day, but it's at a pretty pivotal level as well. So hopefully they get the thing rolling on Monday and get it back over this and build some value above 30, which we haven't seen as of late, and can go backfill some of this gap maybe, and maybe start building some value up into the 5640s, right? That's the best case scenario for buyers. Sellers, they can let it get over this and spend a day above, but ideally you want to see gaps hold. You have a gap up here, quite a ways higher, and you have one big gap here, right? So ideally you want to see the gap fill, or maybe you don't want to see the gap fill, but you want to see either the gap or just value up here just become resistance. Okay. What we can also do is we can throw on like a VWAP here right at the all-time high and sort of see where that set puts us. 5560s for now. So does that line up with anything? 5560s. Yeah, so up here, this shelf here, right? Sort of that breakout level that we had back here. So 30, 60, really important for this week. Sellers, if maybe they want an immediate leg lower, then they want to see this inside day break fail, and continue building value, at least overlapping with the last 3 sessions here and lower, right? And maybe look for that inside day low break. If let's say we open lower and it becomes a little more of a possibility, right? And they want to target just this shelf here, 45 prior balance lows. They have that CPI gap down here. And in terms of value, below this 45, there really isn't much until another, what is that, 70, 80 points lower. So yeah, early on in the week, inside day, just watch that, see what we do up against the levels. NQ, sort of the same situation, although significantly weaker, right? So they also have an inside day. Larger time frame, same idea. We talked about the double distribution on the yearly with a massive point of control here, actually. But trying to develop a double distribution on the yearly profile, with another, the point of control of at least this distribution up here sitting at around 2010, yeah, something like that. But they have a longer ways to go, right? And tech Mag 7 sold off. Mag 7 accounts for what, like 30 something percent of the S&P now. Heavily weighted in the Nasdaq. So the idea is they just want to keep it above this, right? Buyers do. So a little bit closer. Maybe we can consider this line in the sand for NQ. Although you start accepting into sort of where this upper end starts, it starts becoming an issue, right? Currently just bouncing off the 100-day on the 100 SMA. But same as ES, you got a double distribution, at least last week. So it's level to level, inside day. Already looks like it's trying to break out Globex, but I don't trade Sunday, so aside from the swings we're in on the December contracts, I am flat. But inside day, there are a couple levels. So there's still levels within the inside day if you want to get into a position earlier to sort of position yourself prior to a break, right? So you got a shelf, pretty decent one, 190 at least from Friday. The value, most of it down here, we saw Thursday, Friday kind of chop around this 110s to 040s. Sort of marked off the low from Friday. So decent look. Whether it wants to go lower, who knows? We just have, it's just easiest to take it level to level, day to day, right? And just look at where value is shifting, right? You can see the value shifting after each session. We can even do it intraday, but it's just easier to see after the session's completed, and really go from there, right? So the idea tomorrow is just inside day, below 190 starts to become an issue, and It might go test the inside day low and sort of maybe back down to the shelf again, and maybe the gap here, right, which is not too far away. But on an inside day break, let's just target these singles. We didn't quite make it up there. Singles from this big sell-off day. Sort of high volume node here at 510. Not too significant. You got some prior pivot lows. This little high there sitting at around 660, and the bulk of the value sitting up in this 20,000 area, right in the gap there. So we'll just have to take it level to level, like I said. But pretty decent setup going into Monday. Right, pretty simple one. So we'll see what happens once we open on Monday. Let's say we do gap up. Well, we will gap up, at least on a closing basis, right? Let's see if it holds. If not, we just have to watch the high, right? I mean, maybe we can give it down to 190 where the bulk of Friday's value is built, but it'd just be easier if we hold 300 and can bid. So we'll see where we open. Now it looks kind of promising, but pretty simple plan, at least going into Monday. Just inside day, plain and simple, right? Fine. If there's strength on that break, whether it's up or down, be playing in that direction. You could argue that we're one time framing down on the daily and weekly, which sort of, I guess you could validate yourself looking at short pop still, but you really want to be careful and really be sure that you're seeing weakness if you do choose to go that path. Right, or just wait for it to pop over, trade back down within the range, and then see it fail. That's just the surefire way to play it. So there's ESNQ, RTY. They're just flagging up here, right? Just building value higher and higher. Latter half of last week kind of spent most of its time trading up in the upper end, which is good. The most bullish response would be to just hold 2270s. The only issue with the long small caps is, okay, is money gonna magically come back into tech? That's just something I've been thinking about, and it makes it a little hard, and I'm not too sure about how that shapes itself, right? Like, does the Russell have to go down for NQ to go up, right? If NQ is going to go up significantly, and maybe not just be a dead cat bounce, is the Russell gonna fade this move? It's made a pretty historic run. You don't see this quite often. When you do, obviously it's inflows, right, and into small caps. We've been ahead of that move for a while now. Yeah, we'll just see what happens. Just take it day to day. It's hard playing macro. It's hard trading as it is. So try not to overthink it. We have another set of earnings coming up, or pretty huge week for earnings. You also have your S&P buyback blackout period coming to an end pretty soon. I believe after this week it should be almost done, at least for most names. So that'll be interesting. It puts us sort of in this similar situation down here, right? We're pulling back because companies can't buy back their own stock. There's no one buying their stock. Sort of helps with the downside, right? And then they have earnings, pops ups and down, up and down, up and down, right? Because every earnings just comes out differently, and sometimes you get one big company reporting lower or down, then you get another company just has a great earnings, and you get a positive reaction. But so personally hoping for a similar situation to what we did here, right? As the blackout period ended, it started to curl up again. Hopefully, as the blackout period comes to an end, maybe we start to roll up again. So just keep that in the back of our minds. In terms of equity side, I'm not really looking at too many names. I am in Tesla longs as of the close on Friday. I wanted down to 210, 205 maybe, but I got a little impatient and said, we were setting up for a triple inside day. Just try to get in at the lower end and see what happens. Actionable setups, at least. It's hard, obviously, it's hard playing names that have earnings this week, right? Your IV is going to be up on these freaking cons. And then you just never know what direction they're going to go. So, but a lot of Mag 7 did trade down to some key levels. You could say them key levels, prior areas of value. But, starting to lose some EMAs and becomes an issue, right? With chips taking most of the hit, at least last week. So we'll see if that continues. I mean, I saw some size come back into SMH, the semiconductor ETF, latter half of the week. So, maybe we get a green week out of them. See how that shapes out. But ARM was one I liked. ARM, we bought equity. At least I bought equity. You could have bought options, but let me clear this up. I believe someone in the group mentioned it as one of my setups, and that setup being the VWAP off of your last earnings report. Right, came down right into it. So this is my setup. Perfect. It's sort of exactly how I want it. If you miss the first time around, you just want to give it a little bit of time to sort of distance itself away from it and then get it on a pullback, right? I mean, you could arguably say this is enough time. Yeah, this would have been enough time. It's about a week or so. And pull back to it, right? Which would have been a great entry. But that's hindsight. But now we're long here. So we'll see how that goes, right? Hopefully we get some flows coming back into chips. I would continue. Well, hard to. If you are already long biotech KRE regionals, I would just say stay long. Or just be taking profit, right, as you make new highs. These things are on some pretty nice runs, right? Regionals more so than biotech, but we've been way ahead of this move, so we've positioned ourselves pretty decently. This is not too bad of a look, but something like this has to slow down eventually, right? So I personally hate grinds higher. I just prefer flags and sort of sideways consolidation before things get going. Sort of like this UI long we've been in, right? Where we just get sideways consolidation, you get long, you get more sideways consolidation, another leg higher, right? So maybe not the best look to be getting in now. Maybe on a pullback, if you aren't in those, maybe look to get in those. So in terms of actionable setups, we were in ARM, we're long Tesla. Eli Lilly, I think, was the other one trading down into recent value. Yeah, so if we see this sell off another time, maybe another flush lower, I would like to look to play a little rebound. We don't know how high it's going to rebound, but I think if we can get entries in the 780s, 770s, I think we're in a pretty good spot, right? And I think we just risk 2.5%. Yeah, maybe down to a little under 165 for potentially 10, 20%. Oh, 20% be back up to highs, but so that's something I have alerts on, and we'll give a closer look when the time comes. But other than that, I don't have much for individual names. I mean, the ones we're already long are already running, I think, except for Nvidia. I'm in some NVDL and been averaging down. But we've been long small cap, or at least biotech regionals, crypto names, right? Those still stand as like my outperformers for this quarter, right? Do I still have the chart up here? Yes, I do. So at the start of the quarter, when was your options expiration? Was it this Friday? Yeah, so we were fans of regionals, biotech, crypto, and IGV. Software's not doing too well. I think it still does decent this quarter, but we'll have to see. We're only like a month in, so maybe not even worth looking. But um, yeah, I'll stick with that. Obviously, utility. You're seeing utilities and some safer havens prop up last week, but we'll see if that continues. But like I always say, or like I really only started seeing this recently. Just day to day, just work off of prior day's value or last week's value and go from there. It's just simple as that. Once you do trade down to those key levels like we did last week is when we start to maybe look to say, okay, is this going to be a pivot low? Like it's hard. It can be dangerous too if you don't do it properly, but it can be hard trying to, try to nail a bottom, but you give yourself enough room, know the amount of risk you're willing to take before you get into the trade, have lines in the sand, stops, whatever it is. So I've started scaling into some December cons or some NQ and ES cons that expire in December. Have some decent averages on them, right? They're green about 100 or 200 points. NQ and about 20 or 30 on ES. So we'll see how it shapes up. But yeah, willing to call in a short-term bottom, whether it gets faded, whether it's the low for the year, who knows. It's just what I think. So have a plan, trade said plan, and we should be fine. So have a great trading week.